Okay, we can go ahead and get started. First off, I'd like to welcome everybody and thank you for taking the time to spend an hour of your day with us on another webinar. Today's webinar, JD Edwards Self-Service Reporting in BI, Oracle BI Publisher, and OneView Reporting. We've got a few slides and then we'll dive into the live demonstration. Before we continue, at the very end, we'll get into questions. On the GoToMeeting panel, that's taking up a portion of your screen. You should be able to minimize that by clicking the little white arrow, I believe, in a red box, and that'll shift it to the side of your screen. Inside of that control panel, though, is the Q&A panel. So I did get some feedback from the last webinar that wasn't, people didn't know where to go to enter questions. So go ahead and if you have questions along the way, feel free to post them in there. We'll open those up and tackle those at the end of the session. Once again, my name is Adam Krieger with Preferred Strategies. I'm the founder of the company, and I will be going through today's webinar. We'll start with a brief overview of Preferred Strategies, take a little deeper dive into BI Publisher from Oracle, as well as OneView Reporting, what we provide as an accelerator for BI Publisher, and what we're going to present for free from OneView today. We'll dive into the live demonstration and kind of walk through how to use the tools. And then we'll come back and take a look at implementation timeline, how to redeem the free OVR templates that we're presenting today. And then we'll look at the questions as well as announce the Amazon gift card winner. So fortunately, you have to stay with us till the end to get called as the winner of the gift card. So Preferred Strategies, we've been around since 2002. We focus on reporting and analytics, software applications for JD Edwards. Rather than building our own software, we've chosen to leverage the market-leading software that's out there. So if you're a Gartner person, you look at the kind of the magic quadrant of Gartner, the leaders quadrant, that's kind of where we focus. So those leading technologies, we've created the content that makes it work best, the softwares work best in a JD Edwards environment. We support with our data QuickLaunch, data warehouse, operational data store, as well as direct connect. So anybody that wants to just report right over the real-time JD Edwards data, we support that, or again, we can move data offline and manage that as well. Our data QuickLaunch is agnostic to front-end reporting tools. So if you're using any other leading software for reporting, you can still use our data QuickLaunch to connect it to JDE. BI QuickLaunch is where we then taken and built out specific models and templates and reports with the software, and we support Oracle BI Publisher. We'll walk through that today. Microsoft Power Pivot, Tabular, Power BI, as well as Business Objects and Crystal Reports. And we're also partnered with Qlik as well. And we provide a slew of services to help companies get up and running. We, obviously, as part of installing the software, installing our components, but also, some customers use us for additional training and consulting when they've got a lot of projects going on at once. So when we talk about BI Publisher, there's really three different ways to implement BI Publisher that we want to speak to. First was like interactive or standalone. So BI Publisher Enterprise is what we're referring to there. It's the same kind of back-end engine that gets installed as part of OneView Reporting. It allows, basically, you can create data models, create reports, schedule them, distribute them over a web interface of BI Publisher Enterprise, and it uses JDBC connectivity to connect to data. Oracle provides a JDBC driver. We actually use a thin client JDBC driver. But that's one of the things we're going to show you today. A lot of people are just unaware. If you're going against the natural schema of JDE, you get some licenses free from Oracle. So we'll show you kind of how that works. OneView Reporting, again, if you're an Enterprise 1 customer on a newer release, you may be already using or looking to take advantage of OneView Reporting. We'll walk through that. In essence, if you're inside of a inquiry screen in JD Edwards, and you select your elements from your data grid and create a quick report. You can kind of see that data visually, or charted, or in a pivot table. So in essence, it's a quick report authoring tool on top of JD Edwards data from the application. The report authoring tool of OneView reporting is the same as the one above here, Interactive Standalone Enterprise. Can refer to a few different things. The embedded is the traditional BI publisher, where you might be using it for your AP checks or payroll checks or certain forms, where you're using an embedded process in JD, a UBE, to drive output, and that visual output you've actually built with BI Publisher. So step 3 here, embedded, is not what we're doing today. So we're looking at using BI Publisher in scenarios 1 and 2 on this presentation. We're not showing you how to basically create checks and forms and use the embedded BI Publisher. That's not really our focus as a company. However, if that's what you were here for, feel free to reach out to me afterwards. I can probably direct you to a good resource to look for help in that area. So that's, in a nutshell, the core BI Publisher. We're going to kind of walk through that in a live demo at a much greater level of detail. Again, our data QuickLaunch, we provide kind of 2 layers of accelerators for JD Edwards. Our data QuickLaunch is, in essence, a content that we deliver that restructures the JD Edwards data model into a more user-friendly, business user-friendly format for reporting and analytics. We have a packaged data warehouse for JD Edwards. We also can just do mirroring of JDE data to another operational data store. And so basically you can offload all your reporting and querying of data away from the transaction environment. Or you can still choose a direct connect, and we have a suite of database views with our direct connect that transform that JD Edwards data into a meaningful structure. So instead of seeing, a table name in the system F0006, it'll say DIM business unit. Instead of seeing a, ABA and 8 field, it'll say address number. So that's kind of the the layer that sits on top of the data that becomes your data source for analytics. That's our data QuickLaunch. We also then have BI QuickLaunch, where we've gone in and built out models and reports and with the front-end tools. So again, data QuickLaunch can be used by any reporting tool. Our BI QuickLaunch is where we've actually gone in with a specific reporting tool and built out content. And for anybody who's tried to start, leveraging market-leading reporting and BI software, building out the content is one of the things that can take a fair amount of time, and that's one of the accelerators we provide. Is we've already got data models for, in this case, we'll show you today, BI Publisher over JD data, and then some reports on top of that with interactivity drill down within them. So that's our BI QuickLaunch. So the live demonstration, we're going to start on the OneView reporting, and we'll show you building an example of building a OneView report with our boilerplate templates. So that's basically what we're providing for free. If you're interested in some boilerplate templates that we find, some are somewhat similar to some other templates you might have there delivered from Oracle. We find, ours, we've added a couple things to make them a little bit more useful, and then we've also provided a template to build more formatted reports. I think when you look at a lot of the canned OneView reporting reports that you may purchase with OneView content, everything's just a bunch of pie charts and bar charts and a table. But sometimes you want to be able to get a nicely formatted report, like a row-based report, where you can have it maybe just grouping data, and it might end up being 5 pages long, but you don't want to just see it graphically. So we're going to show you with one of our templates how to build formatted reports as well. Then we'll flip over to the BI Publisher Enterprise and show you how to use that. Again, this is some similarities. You will see some overlap with that versus the OneView reporting when you're developing the reports. And the major difference between the two is with the BI Publisher Enterprise, you have to build your own data models, or you buy Preferred Strategies JDE data models, and that's the difference. Now, there are a lot of advantages of that. We'll speak to those as we get there. So we're going to kind of walk through some financial reports and like income statements and balance sheets. We'll show you the report scheduling and distribution. We'll basically build an ad hoc report inside of BI Publisher on the fly, and then we'll kind of expose and show you what is like a data model, what does that do beyond some of the limitations you may encounter with OneView reporting. So I'm going to flip over here and log into JDE here. So I'm just going to navigate to maybe sales order inquiries here, and we'll just pull up, let's say, a OneView open sales inquiry. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and just get some data in our grid. So for those of you who are already OneView users, this would be pretty repetitious. For those of you who are not or are looking to use it, you'll probably learn something here. So I just chose, all columns, so we'll expose. And I think part of the biggest advantage of OneView reporting, in my opinion, are these OneView inquiry grids. They provide you, a lot of the lookups for the different descriptive and dimensions you might have, all the category codes, a few calculations in there. So the kind of underlying architecture that are delivering that is the value. I think the canned reports, it's pretty easy to build your own, but I think these inquiry grids are if you're going to use OneView reporting, very advantageous. So when you want to build a new OneView report, we'll get our grid of data, and you'll notice the OneView option up here. If we select that, we'll have these are canned reports that come with. You can also go down here and add reports. So we're going to choose on add reports. And now, once we chose add reports, you'll notice we have all these green pluses on each of the columns in the grid. And this is where we can go in and start checking those off. And then as I check the boxes, you'll notice that there now can be our selections that will be available for us in our report design. Let me go ahead and keep just getting some good content here. Item descriptions. Grab our status. Next status. Maybe our order date. All right. Maybe our year. And we grab a few measures here as well. So maybe let's say quantity ordered, quantity shipped. Grab our calculated profit. Our extended price, extended cost. And you notice on the far right of some of the core values, you'll see some additional category codes or user-defined codes. We'll go ahead and pull some of those as well. So like sales cat code 1, 2, 3. Let's grab a few more. Maybe we want to grab some. Okay. All right, so we've got enough data here, and this might be allowing us to build maybe several different reports or views of the data. I'm going to choose Retrieve All Records, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Save. And I'll give this a name. So we'll call this our Sales Ad Hoc Report. So this is now going to open up the interface, and you'll see similarities. So you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner here, it says BI Publisher Enterprise. So from this point forward, when we actually build a report later on in BI Publisher Enterprise, it's in essence using the same authoring tools to build reports. And so that's nice. There's some overlap there. Under shared templates, under show all, when we load up, there's 3 preferred strategies templates that we actually are providing, and they're just the boilerplate templates to kind of give you a brief accelerator in using the tool. So I'm going to start with this interactive, preferred strategies interactive landscape. And in this template, it's we've got just a title at the top. We've got some integrated grids. We've got these lists. We'll kind of walk through those, a pie chart, a bar chart, and a pivot table. Reason why we like pivot tables is that they automatically aggregate the data, whereas if you go here to a data table, it does not aggregate data. So if you just pull in a field like customer and amount, it'll give you, in essence, the same customer name repeated 20 times and value repeated for different, so it doesn't give you an aggregate the data, and the pivot table does. So that's why we like to have a pivot table. But let's go ahead and we'll call this will be our interactive sales report. Okay. So again, these lists under the insert are just these lists right here. These are kind of dynamic filters that allow you to kind of quickly filter down your data set. So maybe in this case, we want to use our sales code 1 description, maybe our sales code 2 description, and maybe let's pull our sold to name, branch plant, and maybe our year here, or maybe it's order date. We can actually pull, let's say, our last status. Okay. So, and I think as we get and we pull this with more data, we'll get more options there for us in our selection. So now if we wanted to build a pie chart off of, let's look at maybe our breakdown by customer. So I'll grab our sold to name. I'm going to drag that into a drop series here. And I'll grab our extended price and we'll drop that into our drop values here. Okay. And then as we get more data, we'll have that as a pie. The other thing, we have a title there of pie chart. If we go down here to properties and go to chart title, we'll see a pie chart. So we'll call this sales by customer. Okay. On the right, let's look at maybe doing a bar chart, looking at where we're now narrowing down to either one customer or just look at our gross profit by item, let's say. So go ahead and grab our item description. In this case, we'll drop this into our drop label here. And then we'll go and grab our calculated profit and drop that into our value. Okay. When we use the profit, when you use the a bar chart, if you're going to have a lot of data, it's best to do that as kind of like a top 10. So to do a top 10, we'll just click on, while that chart is selected, a filter. And we'll go up here and say, let's look at our calculated profit is equal to, but it is in top, and we'll put 10 here. So now we've got that. And just looking here as our pivot table, maybe we want to see one of our other category codes here. And we'll look at within that maybe our customer name and maybe down to the item. And now let's look at some values here. Our quantity ordered. And maybe we want to format that without decimals. Let's look at our extended price. As dollars without decimals. And our calculated profit. Okay. Okay. So now to view this with data, right, this is, we're still kind of in developer mode. First I have to save this layout. So we can actually create, one report can have multiple layouts. Just if you think about a spreadsheet can have multiple tabs, same kind of thing applies here. So we've got one data model set up. We can create multiple layouts on top of that data model. And I'll call this interactive sales report. Okay. And then to view this with data, we can go up here and choose interactive. And with the sampling of data we have here, again, this is not really showing. We'll go ahead and we'll pull this back with more data in a few minutes. But we do have the ability to kind of filter down and get to the to data. We're going to show you that in just a minute. So let's go back. If we want to then build maybe a formatted report, slightly different where you're not seeing a bunch of charts and tables, that's another technique we've come up with. And we've actually created a template that we actually, one of the templates we deliver as a boilerplate. So let's walk through that together. In this space, we're going to build a row-based report, right? So it's something that's going to be coming and probably be distributed more of as like a PDF rather than an interactive, click-through type dashboardy type report. So I choose Add New, Layout, and we'll grab, let's say, our Preferred Strategies Formatted Portrait. Choose OK. So you'll notice in this one, slightly different. We've got, we'll call this a formatted sales report. And we've got a data table here. You notice we've got a detail, subtotal, and grand total. We use, again, you'll kind of see how we go about building these. It's different than the way we build the interactive reports. So what we have this table here is for our grouping. So I have to think, okay, I want to group this report by maybe customer and then item. So if I go and grab, let's say, our sold to name, drop that into this data table. Maybe our item description, we'll drop that into the data table. And then I'll just click on the first one. And if I click on that sold to name, under the grouping option, I can group left or group above. So we're going to want to group above here. When you group above, it creates this section. It'll have that as a header. And then you have, in essence, another section where you can put in your subtotals at the bottom. And let's go ahead and add one more group. So I'll click on item, and we'll also choose group above here. Okay. And now I can go back and just delete this extra table, because I really just had that table in there to be used to create my groups. We want to take our detail section down here. I'm going to drag this up above, put it right below that table. And now, instead of saying detail, I want to have our item description. So I'm going to grab that and just drag it down into this other section where I've got my detail. And I'll get rid of the text here, detail. Okay. We can then go take this block, delete that. And to have our sold to name, let's go ahead and get rid of that, the text there, sold to name. And we can go in here. I get my, expand that a little bit. We can also maybe bold that as our header. Okay. So now we've got this last section, the subtotal. I want to drag the subtotal and put that right between the two sections, and that will be where I'll put my subtotals. Okay. So now we've got 4 columns that we have. Let's drag in some values, and I'll show you how to aggregate and summarize the data and build some calculations as well. So if we go to quantity ordered, I'm going to drag quantity ordered into this grid because I want to see total quantity for each item as well as each customer. So if I have that selected, we want to make this a summation. Okay, and we also need to change our formatting. So I can format it, again, quantity without decimals. And now I want to copy that and put that in each of my subtotals. So if I copy, go down here and select that block and paste. That block and paste. Now we can go and grab, let's say, our extended price. And we'll do this as a sum. And we'll format this maybe as dollars. We'll copy that. And we'll paste. And we'll paste. Okay. Let's take our calculated profit. Drop that into our third column here. We'll make this a sum. Change this to a dollar format. We'll copy that. And paste. And paste. So now the last thing we want to do is, what if we wanted to calculate, because this is all aggregate data. There could be, 5,000 rows. Fortunately, with OneView reporting, I think you're kind of around 10,000 rows, so you can have less than that. But, this is going to actually, based on what we've grouped on, in this case, sold to name and item, it'll aggregate that data up to those levels. So if we want to do, let's say, a gross profit or calculate profit percent, we can drag that in to the last column. And now instead of just making that a sum, you notice there is a defined custom formula, and that's what we want to do. So we take a custom formula. You'll notice on the left, this is about the extent within the author-in tool that you can build calculations. So you can do division, addition, subtraction, multiplication. You can do aggregation. There isn't really a robust, editing formula toolbar or anything like that. I'm assuming that is something that is going to get enhanced moving forward, but not just yet. So if we want to look at division, so right here we need to do the sum of our profit divided by the sum of our extended price. So if I go ahead and choose division, I can pick the dividend and choose nested function and edit that. I'll make this our sum of our calculated profit. So now it says summation of calculated profit. So I go down here and select the divisor, nested function, and edit that. We can do the sum of, instead of calculated profit, maybe extended price. Okay. So now we've got our sum of profit divided by price. Choose OK. And now let's go ahead and format that as our percent. And maybe in this case we do want 1 decimal. And let's go ahead and copy that and paste. Copy that one more and paste. Okay. So when you do copy, unfortunately this might be addressed on future versions, but the format, the summation sticks, but the format doesn't. So I'm going to go ahead and just reformat these guys that we've copied. And I'll format those dollars, and then these last two will format these as a percent. Okay. Now let's go ahead and just rename our columns here. This was our quantity ordered. This was our extended price. This was our gross profit. And this might be our gross profit percent. Okay, so now if we go ahead and save that, we would call this one, this will be our formatted. Okay. And when you actually build these types of reports, you want to basically view these as like a PDF or Excel, not an interactive. These type of technique to build these row-based reports do not render well in an interactive. But here you can see within this report, now we've got our customer and the item in a much more formatted flavor than a typical OneView example. Okay, so let's go back. There's a couple other settings we want to check as we before we save this back and then view this with more data. So if we go back and hit return here, one of the things that can address some issues that we've seen with lists and is there's a setting under formatting. I just basically clicked on return, went to properties of the report, and at the very bottom this use 11.1.1.5 compatibility mode. We'll hit true on that and choose OK. And the last thing we'll do is we've got these two different layouts that we've created. You might create, again, reports that have several layouts in them. If I go ahead and view a list, so the top one we might want to have any format, but the interactive being the default. The bottom one, because we know we really want them to be viewed as a PDF or Excel, let's just limit the formats to PDF and Excel and make PDF our default format for that. So now when we save this report and go back out of here, and if we go and want to view this with data, right, now when I go to our sales ad hoc report, we can now view our interactive report. We're going to bring us our data. This is where you go get your cup of coffee. Okay. Now we can kind of see this with a little bit more data here. So if we look at, clicking on our filters, it'll drill down. We can go ahead and select, again, within a chart, it creates a filter and updates everything else around it. So the pivot tables, you can drill down within that as well. You can also, in the pivot tables, when you click on it, it'll open it up in a separate window, and you can navigate through the pivot table. That way, you can even drag stuff around within your columns and rows of your pivot table here as well. So that's that's what we like about these lists at the top, is that they're kind of nice, because you might want to look at everything that's at a sales update, right? It'll give you just the values based on what it is. You can also select multiple values. So let's say I want to look at accessory and bicycle catalog. I can just hold Control and select multiple of those. So just a nice little quick way to get at the data. I forgot to relabel our bar chart there. So that's kind of the interactive. Let's go back and look at the example of the formatted report as well. All right, so that should be coming up here in a second. So in this case, we can see as we scroll down the different, we bolded the customers and then have the items there as well. Okay. So if you think about it, again, we hope that these templates help give you a little bit some options around getting some good content with OneView reporting. Some of the struggles that a lot of customers have, one is the 10,000 row limitation. Others are just building calculation. We've had customers that, in HR want to be able to concatenate the first name and last name together. And if they're not, you can't, because you don't have a true formula editor within the report authoring, you basically have to come and revise your grid, or program your grid to give you exactly what elements you want, if you want to be able to see that displayed in a OneView report. And other customers that might want to go cross module. Maybe I want to pull sales and inventory data together, and where I've got an inquiry grid on purchasing and I've got an inquiry grid on inventory, but I don't have one currently. So unless you build a grid to provide you the output, you can't really do some of that stuff with the OneView. And that's kind of where the BI Publisher Enterprise comes in. So we're going to switch gears now and show you an example with the BI Publisher Enterprise. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in here. One thing to know when you're using the BI Publisher Enterprise, and you can share the same installation of OneView reporting. So you don't have to have this run on a separate server. If you want to basically run OneView reporting in the BI Publisher Enterprise, you can do that. The way that this connects to data, if I go to administration here, you'll see JDBC connection. So we'll come back and look at the example of a data model in just a few minutes. This is where you can configure JDBC connectivity to the data, right? So we're actually going right at the data. There's a lot more flexibility you have. In essence, if you are creating and have your own SQL statements that you want to dump in there, you can use that. Again, our solution that we're going to show you now leverages some of our data quick views that we load on top of JDE data that are all point to the natural schema of JDE. So we're not really adding anything that breaks the barriers of natural schema. So if I go back here to catalog, one thing we want to show is this is now a different avenue. So with the BI Publisher Enterprise, each report can be called from a URL. So you can basically use that URL and put that inside of an E1 menu or an E1 page. and call these reports. But you can also have people that come out here and you can set up security so people only see the folders that they should. If we go down here to reports, in this case, look at like our general ledger, here's an example. We've got an income statement and a balance sheet. So go ahead and just choose open here. And maybe I can choose a different company. So I'll choose company 20. And maybe I want to run this through June and hit apply. So it'll actually go out there. And right now, it's in essence, based on those parameters, it's passing different values into a SQL statement or query that's querying JDE through our views. And we'll show you that in just a minute. But this is where you can build. I know that the 9.2 with the OneView financials, they now have an option to build P&Ls and balance sheets. We've actually done it with this tool. One of the challenges is kind of figure out how to build those different types of summary rows. And just using our technique with the row-based template that we showed you a minute ago and taking that with the data model formulas here with BI Publisher, you can build these types of financial statements as well. The nice thing about this is a lot of times when it comes to financials, it's you might want to schedule and email these reports or have people go in and be able to schedule them themselves, right? The controller wants to go out on his own and not have to go into JDE to schedule reports, but actually, just do this in a separate application. So here we've got, again, revenue and the breakdown within each of these groupings by account. You can see they got 3 tabs here. If we go to the next tab, maybe we're looking at this instead of seeing the rows by each object account. Be slightly differently, we want to see those by business unit. Or if you're doing this at a consolidated level, maybe by different divisions or business segments or whatever you're grouping the data by. And then we got down to an IS income statement by business unit. And this is where we can actually get down to, once you're down to what makes up an account, and then so in JDE, the business unit.object.sub, then we can actually drill down from that to the transaction details. So if I go in here and look at, some of this, maybe I want to look at brochures and corporate documents, I'll click on that. And in essence, that just did a live call to the general ledger. So now I'm actually seeing all my GL transactions for that one line item on the P&L. Okay. So if I wanted from this and say, okay, well, what makes up for this print it now? What's on the invoice from AP? All right, we drill into that, take us right to the accounts payable detail. So these are all part of our deliverables. Again, you could build all this from scratch. We've just gone through, built the data models, built the reports, and part of our installation process on the general ledger is actually provide you an income statement and balance sheet as well. So that's the the interactive nature, again, because you can create URLs in the reports. You can basically pass from one report to another. You can even drill back to JDE. So you could actually have a URL in the report that passes over into it the criteria that you need to fill in an inquiry grid on the JD Edwards side. That's another option that you can do as well. So that's just viewing. We just opened the report and just selected some parameters and viewed it on the fly. Under the balance sheet, let's go ahead and we can do the same thing, choose open, but you'll also notice some other options here. So when you use the BI Publisher Enterprise, you have a scheduling feature, right? You don't really have that today in the OneView reporting. So with this over the web, if I choose schedule, and now I've got some different options. So again, I'll choose my parameters. So I'll use, company 1, and maybe I'll just leave that as it is and do it to my output. So if I had different tabs in the report, I can go ahead and create, or maybe I want the first summary, right? Maybe I want that as a PDF. Actually, in this case, I'll do both as a PDF. You could choose, different formats like Excel. So if we go in here and do a balance sheet detail, I'll choose the other layout. Maybe that's PDF. You notice this down here, destination. So I can go ahead and add email. So if I want to email this report to somebody, right, I can go ahead and email someone this report processes, and upon completion will then distribute the report to the users via email. So you want to be careful, obviously, making sure that you're safe on your recipients you're sending this to, if there's any confidential information. But that's a nice option. We go to the schedule. By default, if I run this once. When I hit the submit button, it'll go ahead and generate the output on the fly. But I can also run this, maybe every Monday and Thursday I want this report to run. So you can kind of create a schedule or a recurring schedule for when you want these types of things to process, these reports. Right now I'm going to leave it as once. You can also set up any notification. So I want to email myself or certain people when reports fail or are completed or whatnot. So once you've gone through and you got all your options that you want for your schedule, you hit the submit button. We'll give this a name. Okay. And we'll choose OK. And then it says this has been successfully submitted. Okay. So now to go back and hit return and go to the balance sheet, we had open, we went to schedule, then there's jobs and job history. So to get the running jobs, we go to job history. You can go out there and search. You'll see it says running right now. I hit refresh. Once it's completed, that running will then say success. So now we can go over and click on that balance sheet demo, and whatever different layouts that we had, we can actually view those. So in this case, we can go click on the summary. This will open up our balance sheet summary view. We go back and look at the detail. Again, the detail, because we've got now down to a business unit.object.sub or an account, we can then drill from this down to the general ledger transactions. Okay. So that's in essence the scheduling and some interactive financial reporting. Let's go ahead and show you one other thing. The difference here, if you're going to use BI Publisher or Enterprise, is, again, the difference when you go ahead and choose new. We'll go ahead and show you in a minute a data model. If you want to build a new data model, you can choose data model. Or you want to build a new report, you just hit the new option, hit new report. And now you've got some options here. So the first thing is let's select a data model. In this case, let's just do a quick example around purchasing, and then I'll just look at open purchase orders. So I'll select a data model around purchase order detail, open orders, select that. And I can use Guide Me. That'll just basically create a table. We want to use something more interactive. So I'm going to choose Use Report Editor, hit Finish. And now it's saying, where do you want to save this report? So maybe we want to go in here and say this would be our ad hoc PO demo. Okay. So like you kind of similar that you saw on the OneView side, once you build a new report, so okay, we'll pick a template or pick a boilerplate, and this is where we'll go ahead and just grab our interactive again. And okay. And we're not going to have to go through this whole thing, but just to kind of give you an example here, what's on the left, right? Well, this was already a data model, and you'll notice very similar to like an inquiry grid of OneView, you've got the company and the description and the order type description, the address num. The things that's a little different is you'll notice this one has the business unit and description. It's a concatenated field, right? Or the address number and description. Or we go down here and we're looking at, let's say, our item number second or item account. So in essence, in this case, this is pulling, if the item has a value, it'll pull the item number, otherwise it'll pull the object account. So, you kind of get some other logic that you can kind of build in. And we want to go down here and grab our last status. Let's go down and grab maybe our order date, or order year and month. Okay. Actually, our order date year. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and just kind of build the content. So since we've already kind of taken it from this point forward, we'll kind of move forward given the sake of time. But again, the difference is this was actually creating a new report, not from a OneView inquiry grid. It's totally outside of JDE. It's all connected directly to JDE. But these are data models where we've actually created. So let's take a look at a data model and show you that. So if we go back and go to the catalog, and if I navigate back to, let's say, the data models and go down to like our general ledger, here's a data model we used that supported the income statement that we showed you earlier. Okay. So with this, you can create different queries. So you want to create a new query. You notice here you say SQL query. Now, again, this is where, because you have more flexibility with the data model creation, you could actually do a query over purchasing and a separate query over inventory and then relate the two together. Right? So you have the much more flexibility on getting across different modules of JDE. You'll notice in this case we've got, we're prompting for a company, year and month. We're then, creating list of values for those. You're going to have the query of the database for a list of values. But in this data set, you notice things have got little short names to them. So that's a technique. We intentionally give these names a short name. You go to the structure here, we actually give it the long name. So what the users actually see is the display name, but the reason why we do the XML tag name as a shorter name is because it actually creates a much smaller XML data set, which allows you to get more throughput, pull more data, and performs faster. So that's kind of a best practice there. But one of the things that we do is, if we look here like business unit and description. So if I go ahead and look at the properties of that, we can go in and you do have at the data model layer here more options around formulas. So we can do things, if then else logic. And we're using if then else logic to do, some of those row criterias, or even, the item account and description formula we showed you a minute ago. So you can do if then else logic, and or absolute. You can do substring. So if you want to pull out the fifth character of the business unit, or just look at the the first three characters of a text field, you can do that. Some options about formatting the date. So that does give you more flexibility with this formula editor, which you don't get as the report authoring tool that OneView as well as this does on the back end. So this is an example. The other thing we do is you've got these row flags to kind of build those P&L levels or balance sheet levels. And this is where we're also using these parameters that we prompt for year and period to go and dynamically calculate month-to-date actual amount, year-to-date, quarter-to-date, current year, prior year, actuals and budgets. And so these are dynamic fields, so you don't have to, every time you change your parameter and run it for a different period, different year, those dynamic fields automatically calculate on the reports. So in a nutshell, we've got the data model, we've got the structure. You go to the data tab here. This is where you can go ahead and view, for example, of 100 rows here. And it'll create, here's the XML, and then you can actually save this as sample data, and that becomes your data that you build the report with. And then once you publish a report and view it, it's always doing live connectivity back to JDE. Okay. So let's go back here. So how does this work? Direct connect BI Publisher Enterprise. Again, regardless if you're running JD Edwards on SQL, Oracle, or IBM iSeries, we layer our database views on top of the database. And that kind of does all, again, the naming conventions, the dates, the decimals. We restructure some of the summary tables in JDE to give you a new dimensionality by period, so we can do much more trending, as well as calculate those time-based metrics, month-to-date, quarter-to-date, year-to-date, much easier. And the way the workstations actually don't connect directly to that, because the BI Publisher runs on a server, and then on the servers where we load up the data models and the reports, so the users, basically just accessing the web browser and calling their stuff through there. They can also, again, those URLs, each report has a URL associated with it, and you can basically embed that within JD Edwards menus or other portals that you might be using. And then when you click on the link, it will run the report dynamically on the fly. So that's kind of an example of the BI Publisher Enterprise with Preferred Strategies. Implementation timeline. We have some prerequisites, so based on what modules you select, some prerequisites that we need your information. We then take that and we script out the views. We update, making sure your naming conventions for your category codes. Also in the financial area, what your criteria are for your different rows of your P&L and balance sheet. Our pricing includes the installation, so you don't pay any more or less depending on how long that takes. But once we go ahead and script everything out on our side, to get the views in place, it's just a matter of minutes. We basically go share a desktop, get those running on your side, mapping the data models and reports. Each of those, depending upon how many modules you go with, it could be anywhere from a few minutes or 30 minutes per module to kind of get that up and running. And so we've got that, and then it does take us to actually map the P&L and balance sheet a few more hours for that. So, but very quickly, I mean, within a day, you can actually get this stuff accessible. And this does assume assumes you have the BI Publisher Enterprise installed. Otherwise, you're looking at another probably day or so to kind of get that installed and configured there too. So if you're interested in those boilerplate templates that we started the presentation with on OneView reporting, to redeem those, just reach out to us. My email will be up on the next screen. You reach out to me or support at Preferred Strategies, or call us requesting it. Basically what we'll do is set up a quick 1-hour shared desktop session to kind of get them connected and verify that they are working, and show you kind of how to use the interactive and the formatted, and kind of do the walkthrough, and then you're off and running. If you are interested in the BI Publisher Enterprise, we definitely can have you explore that. Other sessions we did, if you're interested in or have other technology with Microsoft, free plugins for Excel with Microsoft Power Pivot or Power BI, free desktop, we can also support that. And we do have this Thursday, we're going to show an end-to-end demo of business objects with ad hoc business user query ad hoc over the web. Very, very powerful in that regard. Some nicely formatted reports with crystal reports, and the new data discovery with Lumira to show you, business user-driven analysis that's like a kind of Tableau type look and feel. And that's this Thursday, so hopefully you can make that as well. So at this point, again, I just want to thank everybody again for your time, and do appreciate you attending the session. We will answer questions, so feel free to post some questions